Oh, yeah. You know what time it is? It's time to pick a date. Yeah, that's what we like. And when we pick a date, we want to pick a real good one for you. Hello, this is a new podcast. It's called Pick a Date. My name is Stu, and joining me on this new podcast adventure are my old friends Matt.
Hi.
Ben.
Hi there.
And Chubbs.
Hello.
Oh, Chubbs. That was very deep.
Oh, hi, Chubbs.
Hi. So, what's the premise of the show, you may be asking, or not? I'm not sure. The premise is we pick a date and we all go off and find an interesting story that relates to that date, i.e. pick a date. So, yes, hopefully we will get to some really interesting nuggets, and the day that we've chosen this week is May the 8th. So, fellas, let me just start this off by giving you a few facts about May the 8th before we get into the meatier stories we have later. So, some famous births on May the 8th through history. 1884, Harry Truman, of dropping an atom bomb on several cities fame. You know that guy. Yeah. A few 100,000 people know who that guy is. Personally.
Well, they don't.
or they don't, yes.
He came and visited all of them.
It's just the biggest crop dust the world has ever seen.
Roberto Rossellini in 1906, the director. And 1926 saw two quite famous people born. David Attenborough, who's still going strong, who's turning 92 this year.
Happy birthday, 92.
Happy birthday, Sir Dave.
Happy birthday, Dave.
And Don Rickles, who's not turning 92 because he's dead.
Oh, dear.
Right.
And
He died quite recently, though. There's something about that date.
He was on telly the other night. I saw something about Don Rickles. They were doing one of those. SBS did their classy 80s review show as opposed to the top 20 Channel 9 version.
Yeah.
And Don Rickles was on that. He was on. I didn't realise he was like a regular Johnny Carson.
oh yeah,
Yeah, he used to do the walk-ons.
Yeah, the Men on the Couch.
he was harsh. He had quite harsh, insults to people, but because he had kind of a silly kind of shtick and gurned a lot and stuff, it kind of
The gurning. He just loved it, didn't he?
seemed quite innocent, but it was some sick put downs. I'm gonna say that right here on your Rickles.
Wasn't he a buddy of Sinatra? Didn't Sinatra?
Yeah. Yep.
Sinatra loved him because of that particular type of humour.
Well, I don't know if we can ask him, but I'm gonna say sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And have you ever noticed when you're looking at the kind of births and deaths on a certain day, there's a few that you go, yep, they're famous, and then there's one where you just go, what are they doing on that list? The other one that popped up for me was in 1970, Michael Bevan.
Michael Bevan.
What?
Right.
We know exactly why he's on that list.
Well,
Yeah, he had 4 off the last ball.
yeah.
Michael Bevan.
Michael Bevan.
Well, to
He's
us,
coming from the Paddington End.
to us, yes, he's
Yeah, to us, yeah, true.
he's shoving Rickles and Attenborough out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. Who cares?
Truman, ex-president, get out.
Yeah.
Bevan to the top of the list. We know that.
Michael Bevan never killed 200,000 people in a flash.
Well, you're making assumptions.
Have you heard of Michael Bevan in the last 5 years? Do we know where he is?
Right. Oh, are you suggesting he's in jail? Is that because
I'm suggesting he is serving time for war crimes. That's what I'm suggesting.
I'm pretty
been
sure
to
a
The
lot of
Hague?
men,
I missed that.
jizzed their pants when he scored the 4 at that last ball. That probably killed
Yeah.
millions of potential children. Out
We
there.
might get that fact checked
Yeah.
at some
Fair
point
enough.
during the show. Also, Gary Glitter, born on this day for fans of Kiddie Fiddlers. Born on this day, Gary Glitter.
Right.
Famous deaths on the 8th of May.
I've got a good one of this.
Good.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
I bet you have. It's probably the same one I'm saving for last.
I'm sorry, I'll shut up there. It obviously is then. I'm sorry, I'll shut up.
That's all right. 1880, Gustave Flaubert, a very
How was his parrot?
Finicky.
Was he indebted to him?
finicky French author. Side note, love the hookers, apparently.
Oh.
Bloody
Was
love
that
them.
in his death notice? Was that on his tombstone?
No, I hope so. I really hope so.
It's in his obituary, they're just in the side there. Loved a hooker. Loved it.
Flaubert, famous novelist, man of letters, loved to get on it chronically.
Love to pay.
Yes. 1992, Joyce Ricketts, who's an American baseball player, and I have no further info, I just like the name Joyce,
Joyce
Ricketts.
Ricketts. Yeah, nice.
1994, is this yours?
I'm assuming so.
George Papard.
George Papard. I was nearly going to do the entire show about George Papard. It was only the very last. It was only after much research and interviews with Mr. T, realising that how dull a man he actually was.
Oh, right.
Just a bit of a
damn.
boring bastard that I decided not to pursue that link. But yeah, George Papard died on this day.
How old was he when he died?
Don't
74.
throw those at us.
Oh, okay. I guess he was fairly old in the 70s. Then.
Maybe he wasn't quite.
I think-
no, actually, no, I don't think he was.
I think he got pretty old considering how many cigars he chomped on.
Yeah, no, that's probably true.
He used to smoke 4 packs a day.
What? Of cigars?
Yeah. No, of cigarettes.
Oh, right.
Like,
How do you find the time to smoke 100 cigarettes in a day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Every day.
it's just insane.
You have to set your alarm in the morning just to get up and be able to smoke that many, I reckon.
So, yeah, 76.
All right.
76. All right.
And last, Lionel Rose was in...
Sorry, 66. Bad maths.
Lionel Rose in 2011, famous Aussie
Right.
boxer. And this is the one I actually initially thought that you had
So,
on this day. 1999, Dana Plato died on this day.
oh, really?
Really.
I'm surprised. Oh, man, I definitely would have done that one then.
As massive fans of Different Strokes, that's obviously hits us particularly hard here at Pick a Date.
Should we have a minute silence?
So was
Yeah, works brilliantly, brilliantly on podcast.
Just edit over it. That'll
Yeah.
be fine. Let's just.
it? Did she OD or did she have a brain hemorrhage and die of different strokes?
Oh,
Yes. I told you that minute silence would have helped.
5 minutes in, that's your make or break moment, listeners. That joke, you're either in or you're out from this point.
Yeah, that's right. Good work, Chubs.
Okay, let's go to a few events that have happened on May 8th. I think the most famous one is probably 1945, Victory in Europe Day. May 8th is celebrated as the day that World War II ended in Europe after Germany signed their unconditional surrender. In 1809, Lachlan Macquarie appointed to replace William Bligh as Governor of New South Wales. Lachlan Macquarie, very significant figure in Australian history.
As was Bligh. Yeah.
As was Bligh, yeah. 1912, Paramount Pictures is founded. So that's,
Yeah, that's
imagine,
interesting, isn't it?
that's 106 years ago. That's how long movies have been around, essentially, or going to the movies. What am I talking about? It's been longer than that, but I'll just I'll cut that line out.
It's impressive, though. It's impressive the studio.
I'll play myself out.
I said it.
The studio's been around for that long, though.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And in 1980, the World Health Organization confirmed the elimination of smallpox from the planet for good. Yes, that deserves a round of applause.
Unless they get them out of storage, get it out of storage and try and use it against the populace again.
Well, I was going to say, the anti-vaxxers doing their best to reverse that, but see how we go.
If they can get it back out there,
It's
but
an ongoing challenge. One more thing before we get into our stories, fellas. May the 8th is seen as the day that one of the oldest British customs is celebrated, and it's called the Furry Dance.
Wow.
Now, the furry dance is a celebration of the passing of winter and the arrival of spring. It's bloody late in the calendar for them to be having that, I would have thought.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Has that taken on a new meaning over the last couple of years?
well,
or-
I thought it might pique your attention. It's actually
Flaubert was a big fan of the furry dance.
so for FER is a Cornish word for fair.
Is it possible that every day on his birthday, David Attenborough was getting down to a bit of a furry dance?
And of course, I know you're all very up on your saint days. So May the 8th, amongst other saints, it's the day for Saint Desideratus, who you will, of course, remember worked as a secretary for King Clotaire. You know all that. You guys know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Clotaire?
yeah,
Of
yeah.
course.
And
I'm good on my Clotaire.
And was dedicated to
My
a...
favourite was Welcome Back, Clotaire.
Yeah.
That was his.
Far out.
Fantastic.
I like the Clotaire Empire.
Yes. And he was dedicated to eliminating heresy from all of Clotaire's realm. So I don't need to tell you guys that. You guys
Yeah, we
know
already
that.
knew that. It's old news.
So, now let's get into the meat of this podcast. Each of us have looked up a little story to do with the 8th of May, and we're going to tell it to the others now who are hearing it for the first time. I'm going to select Ben to go first. Ben, what have
Stu.
you got for us this evening?
Well, whilst trolling the internet for May 8 paraphernalia, shall we say, I came across this little story in relation to Muhammad Ali. In 1967, Muhammad Ali was indicted for refusing to fight in Vietnam.
Yes.
So the thing that piqued my interest was obviously this had to do with the interview that he gave to the media when, he said, they want me to go 10,000 miles from home and drop bombs and bullets on brown people in Vietnam while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs and denied simple human rights.
Yeah.
And so...
What was his point?
What was his point?
Is there a problem, boy?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I wanted to make a Bert Newton reference there, but...
Right, and I thought,
All right.
In saying that you wanted to make it, you just made it.
Yes, thank you. Now, I mean, the thing that got me, like, obviously, I'd known about this, but the fact that he went to jail and lost 3.5 years of his, basically the best 3.5 years of what would have been his fighting life at that stage.
Yeah.
He was stripped of all his titles, and the 3.5 years that he spent in jail, he then got let out on a technicality, or when they figured out that they were just wrong. Basically, the reason that they put him in jail for 3.5 years was actually wrong. That the Justice Department was simply wrong as a matter of law in advising that the petitioner's beliefs were not religiously based and not sincerely held. So he spent 3.5 years in jail on the fact that they just didn't believe his religious beliefs could keep him out from basically going to Vietnam.
Are you saying that he went to jail because they didn't believe that his religious beliefs were a good enough reason to stop him from going? Is that what you're saying?
Or are you
sincere, I
saying
think.
that he didn't?
I don't think
They didn't believe that he actually believed what he was saying.
Yeah. Right.
As he
I think
just
he was
didn't want to
sincere
go
in
and
his
fight,
beliefs.
so he was just making up his beliefs.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah, just for the simple fact that he didn't want to get on a plane to go and fight someone.
Right.
But it's just, I mean, obviously that was the hypocrisy of the time to be like 1967, they could do that, but by the 70s, the war was like unpopular. People are campaigning to get him out, and they're like, oh, well, yep, we'll get him out. Yep, sorry. 3
So
years.
another little tidbit, it was an all-white jury,
Right.
of course, and all-white jury in Houston passed judgment, and the typical sentence for refusing to serve was 18 months, and Ali got given 5 years.
Jeez. Yeah.
You know, we're...
Well, I mean, it's pretty deep rooted with him because he went to the 1960 Olympics, won a gold medal, and that was what he realised when he came back to Louisville. He was still, even wearing his gold medal, still, no, Sorry, you get served down there. No, you come in that entrance there.
Not allowed to go. Yeah, not allowed to take public transport. Had to sit in a certain spot in public transport.
So, okay, I can represent your country and win a gold and be lauded. I can go overseas and kill people, you ask me to, and that's a good idea, but I can't sit in the same spot.
I think by this stage he was either on the road to conversion to Islam or was, and there was a thing about the brotherhood as he imagined it and as it was preached by the
Elijah Muhammad.
Elijah Muhammad. Yeah. So basically saying that all brown people are our brothers and sisters and we must unite them, and it was a pretty big movement that he was a part of.
Big stand,
and that was his. But the reason, I think his legal argument was the religious reason. Like, why are you refusing to go? Well, I'm saying it's against my religion to fight people who I consider to be my brothers and sisters. And,
all right.
Yeah.
Cool. So Muhammad Ali on this day, May 8th,
1967.
1967.
So this was the day he was actually
indicted.
Sentenced.
That was the day he was indicted.
Right.
There's the statistic here. The day of his conviction, the US Congress voted 337 to 29 to extend the draft for 4 more years. So it became such a big thing that they went back to Congress and decided to extend it again.
Yeah.
They were just, they were just a bunch of idiots.
Got to show the strengths. Got to show the strengths. People are saying it's not a good thing. It is a good thing.
Yeah. Look,
we'll extend it.
We voted.
We'll make it more. Yeah, we love it.
50 years later, 51 years later,
it's all changed. It's all better.
Come so far.
Yeah, it's all better.
It's all more racism.
Well done, America. look at you now.
All right. Well, I might chime in quickly with my story. So, let me just ask you to imagine yourself in a situation here. You are a soldier. Yes.
Okay.
You've joined the army.
Yep.
And you're just trying to find out a little bit about who's leading this army. Right? So, first of all, you get told that the leader of the army is a woman. Okay. So, all right, that's fine. No problems there. Process that. Next, you get told that that's a 19-year-old woman leading your army.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So process that. That's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. All right.
It's fine. It's okay. It's fine.
Moving along.
We're all very modern, progressive gentlemen. We're like, yes, well
That's
done.
right.
Well done,
That's
young
right.
people. Young people today, they can do anything.
Now you find out that 19-year-old woman trips balls often, and hears voices in her head telling her to do various things.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Is it working for us? Because if it's working for us, I'm behind it.
Is one of those things sharing those drugs with everyone else?
Would anybody like to hazard a guess at who I'm talking about here?
Is it Joan of Arc?
It's Joan of Arc. Yes.
Oh, dog.
Who apparently on this day lifted the siege of Orleans.
Right.
Well,
So, yes, what we have here is an army led by a 19-year-old girl, and the year is 1429. So, we have in 1429 a 19-year-old girl who hallucinates, leading an army and winning. Essentially, towards the end of April, Joan set out to relieve the French forces at Orleans, which the English had been smashing for at least 6 months. And dressed as a male soldier, she quickly gathered all the men under her command. When she got to Orleans, she was frustrated by the conservative tactics of the people fighting there, the French people fighting there. So basically, she went batshit crazy, and everyone went, "Oh, well, she can do that. We can do that too."
let's all go a bit batshit crazy.
Everyone get in there, yeah. Follow
Bring
it.
that deep point back in.
Jesus. All right.
Sorry.
I never knew how she raised up the ranks like that, and that was the story I'd always miss. Was yes, I understood she led all.
So
the
when you
troops.
say
Essentially, she spirited her way into the king's company.
because it was divine spirit, right? That's what all her hallucinations, all her speaking in tongues, all of her tripping balls, was all communicating with God. He was saying, do this, do that, and it was working.
Yeah, and essentially she had some lucky breaks whereby people in the court would say, predict the outcome of this battle for us, like ask the voices what's going to happen in this battle, and when they came true, she was obviously lauded. So
yeah. But also, if you're the English, if you're the English in 1429,
yep,
and you hear, oh, they've got this woman over there, 19-year-old girl who speaks directly to God and is just causing mayhem and just destroying and winning battles, then you're going to be like, yeah, maybe just send a couple of people. Yeah,
like that is the craziest. That's the craziest game of Chinese whispers ever.
Yeah, it is.
Like, that's the end. The end result is just so. Well, yeah.
What I kind of wonder.
Jean d'Arc speaks with God. Purple monkey dishwasher.
That's right. It's just coming full circle to that.
What I kind of wonder though is whether the English knew that the army was being led by a 19-year-old female, because she would dress in male clothes. And I've got a strong kind of image of Bob from Blackadder.
Right.
Kind of a scenario like that, where you've got a very sort of lithe, pretty young boy there, speaking in a high voice. Yes, but leading the charge.
But in this case, covered in entrails and blood and.
Oh yeah, and kind of gibbering in tongues. But you know, I can't. You get where I'm going with that.
We get you. So
can I just clarify, when you say that she went batshit crazy at the front in the front lines? Are you saying that she was screaming and yelling, or she was like going on a slaughter mission, or do you have any idea to clarify?
She would lead attacks. So the French were being very conservative and defensive. She would gather people to launch attacks. She would goad the enemy try and goad them out of their positions. She would go up to the French leaders that were there, and basically call them out for being dogs and being too scared to get in there.
Yeah.
And basically, people would start following her instead of the commanders that were there already. So, I just think. I mean, obviously, I'm light on detail there, but this isn't Dan Carlin's hardcore history. This is just a few interesting tidbits from the day.
But I would certainly hazard a guess that if you were the French and if you found out that it was a 19-year-old girl who's speaking directly to God, I'd be Chinese whispering that into the English. It's 1429. Everyone's superstitious as all buggery. They're going to be like, oh, she communicates with God, right? I don't want to. I might sit this one out. Might just go home.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty.
And think about
believable.
Think about it.
Well, that was why she eventually got executed. So.
Yeah.
But imagine it's 1429. People aren't too progressive, really.
No. But she could be a grandmother at 19, though. 1429.
You're a respected French general.
Yeah.
You know, you're the English are winning. You're just trying to hold on. You're being defensive.
Yeah.
In your tactics, and then this 19-year-old girl flounces up and calls you a big quiche. You know.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Yeah, exactly. Well, go, all right, we'll show her. And everyone got amongst it.
Yeah. You take your sword out and she bites your fingers off and just eats them, and you're like, oh.
All right.
Listen to her.
Calm down on the talking to God. Jesus, you're taking it too far.
Everyone listen to her. All right. Good on. I don't know fingers.
All right. Well, that's my May 8th story. Let's go with Chubbs.
Alrighty. Sorry, people. I'm going to be continuing the slightly depressing military theme here. I hope that Maddie's got something lovely and lighthearted to finish us off.
I certainly do.
Let me talk about...
We've all been listening to too much dollop, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm actually I'm hedging around the the Second World War here in a little country called Estonia.
Ooh.
So little Estonia, sitting on the Baltic, so just kind of a bit south of Finland, and, you know, just to the west of Russia. And anyway, so poor little Estonia, and during World War II, they got completely butt-fucked by the Soviet Union, basically came through, and as they were moving west to kind of confront the Germans, they annexed pretty much most of those Balkan states and the Eastern Bloc countries. So this is where a lot of the Soviet Union actually resulted from World War II because of the annexations they were doing during World War II. So it wasn't like the carve-up, they'd actually invaded at this stage. And they were pretty hectic while they were there. They pretty much went through, in the 1 year that they were in charge of Estonia, they put away about 8,000 people. And about 2,500 of them were executed in Estonia, and the rest of them were sent off to the gulags in Russia. So, not a pleasant place to be in Estonia. And this is in 1940 that they came through and did that. So, 1940 to 41, the Soviets were in charge of Estonia. Then the Germans came across. Okay, so the Germans came across in 41, and that was in June of 41, and they were welcomed with open arms initially from the Estonians because they were seen as relievers from this horrible force of Soviets who'd come in.
Yeah, come in, can I help us? Oh, God, we're sick of this shitty treatment from these Russians.
These oppressive regime of Soviets.
Yeah. What do you got for us, Germans?
Yeah, and... Yeah,
Fred?
So ended up with plenty of them joining the SS. Initially, it was a bit of a fever joining up with the Germans to repel the Russians, but this eventually petered out as the true intentions of the Nazis were fully revealed, and the fact that they weren't going to be granted their independence again, and that they were going to be part of the whole Lebensraum policy of our good old mate Adolf. Mm. So they were stuck in this bit of a tug-of-war, so they were under German occupation up until 45. And, it was 1944, and that's when the Soviets again started to come through. So they had a brief moment of independence in 1945, where Estonia was established as an independent state. And then the Soviets reoccupied again.
Enjoy that while it lasts.
Yeah, that was a very long time. So that's just a little bit of backstory, all about what's happened to Estonia, to lead us to this moment where there was two young girls, a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old girl. We've got Aili Jurgensen and Agida Pavel. Okay, so these two girls, they decided that when the Soviets reoccupied, they went through and they pretty much fucked up a lot of the war memorials and stuff like that, which the Estonians had set up to commemorate their independence and the battles they fought against both the Russians and the Germans in the previous kind of decade. And the Soviets went through and pretty much destroyed all these, and then desecrated a lot of cemeteries, and then erected a new Soviet war memorial in the middle of Tallinn. Okay, so this was a really shitty memorial, and it was actually, because it was like a memorial where they would entomb unknown soldiers, but these soldiers that actually entombed in there were three thieves who had the Red Army soldiers were known for robbing lots of apartments in Tallinn, and three of them accidentally broke into a Red Army officer's apartment.
Oh.
And that was the only reason they got caught, was because he was actually one of their commanding officers. And so they were executed and then put in this memorial, interred in this memorial, and then were basically greeted as some kind of, great Soviets who had represented and died for the motherland, when actually they were just these three dudes who'd ripped off the wrong CO.
Oh.
So they decided, these two young girls, Aili and Agida, decided that they weren't going to put up with this shit anymore, and they decided that on this day, in, May 8, 1946, they were going to blow the fuck out of this blue wooden pyramid with a Soviet star on top.
Wow.
Ooh.
So they were part of the local resistance in Tallinn. Aili, in years later, talking about the actual memorial that the Soviets had left behind, saying, I won't be doing accents, it was quite appropriate that the graves of marauders became a revered symbol of the Soviet occupation. They pray and drink here, actually the site where the robbers were buried. And then on the actual memorial itself, how long should we watch this red star, a memorial for Russian looters, at the time when our statues are being destroyed? We just couldn't get our heads around it. We decided that if such robbers are raging in Estonia, they should see how one of their memorials get blown up. We could have just doused the wooden thing with gasoline and set fire to it, but no, we wanted it to go with a bang. So this is a 14 and 15-year-old schoolgirl, and they're in this. They've basically known nothing but war for most of their lives. And you consider the fact they would have seen the tail end of, well, not the tail end of World War One, but the effect of the tail end of World War One, because the Eastern Front was pretty full on then, and then all the way through World War Two. So they just, when you think, like, I was just thinking about the fact that, you think about what we were doing when we were 13, 14, 15 years old.
That was my thought as well. At 14, I don't know where I would have found dynamite.
But not even that, but where would you get the wherewithal to stand up and, like, these weren't just, they were kids, and they were basically set up their own little mini militia, which happened really, really organically. Like, they just, all the kids in their class were opposed to the Soviets, and they started off with 6 members, and then they got some other boys to join in, and they started distributing the flyers. And then eventually one of the dudes was like, "Oh, I've got some dynamite here," and so they just set up the dynamite and a fuse,
just casually,
Exactly, but this
sounds like they're dealing with dynamite. It just sounds like a story from when we were 14, down sitting on the Oval with someone saying, "I've got a cask of goon here." All right, I'll go off with these people.
So, and this is in obviously a highly charged police state as well. A situation where there's people being arrested every day. We're seeing killings, searches, and arrests, and it wasn't a safe thing to be doing this. And they decided, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. So they went out and they got this dynamite, and coincidentally, there was another girl from their school who was walking past, and she was flirting with the guard of this memorial, and then they managed to blow the fucking thing up. And all they had was a stick of dynamite, 3 sticks of dynamite, and a fuse that had to be long enough to let them walk away at a normal pace. The guy who gave it to them was Velo Volt, and they wanted to get it done before May 9th. May 9th is the big Russian celebration for victory in Europe, and they call it just Victory Day.
Right.
And it's absolutely insanely massive. Like, imagine Anzac Day on steroids times a million with, fucking 160 million drunken Russians. Like, it is a huge, huge day in the Russian calendar. Like, it's really hard to express it. And to be fair, you can kind of understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, the huge casualties they suffered in World War II. And this was the first year that it was going off. And so the girls were really, really adamant that it had to happen before this Victory Day celebration went off. And so they did it on May 8th. And they blew the fuck out of it. And the local authorities got to work, and they actually rebuilt the memorial overnight, so it was ready for the Victory Day.
Oh, wow.
Like, they blew it up in the afternoon, and it wasn't reported in the newspapers or anything at the time. It was like all really hush-hush. No one wanted to acknowledge there was any kind of resistance going on. And then there was this, once again, Chinese whispers, and in the subsequent days, there was about 3 other memorials which were blown up all around Estonia, thanks to these 2 girls. And initially they weren't even caught. They just turned up to school the next day. They were still handing out these anti-Soviet flyers, which this is what blows my mind. Like, they've just gone and done this incredible act, and they're still going about their normal business, and they're very openly being anti-Soviet, which, as I say, for this police state, they think they would have just been shitting themselves. Like, it's just, like, there's literally people being dragged off the street and just being shot in the head. Like, that's just the norm for these people that they're living in. And it was only because of the interrogation of another fighter that they actually found out that these girls were the ones behind it, and that's when they were picked up. So on Ailey's 15th birthday, she was picked up, and she was taken to the secret police headquarters. That was the MVD back then. And she was convicted as an underage terrorist, and she was sentenced to the Gulag. So she was in the Urals in the Gulag, and she was out there for, she was in the Gulags, I think, for about the next 30 years. She was allowed to return to Estonia in 1970, and she ended up marrying another Estonian Finn. Apparently there was a lot of Estonians fled to Finland in order to, because Finland had a much stronger resistance against the Russians, so there was kind of quite a strong bond between them.
Partly the reason I imagine why Russia took a lot of aggression out on Estonia, because they couldn't get anywhere with the Finns.
That's right. Well, the Finns were just phenomenal. Like, there was nothing. They were just so well organised as a fighting force. Like, and the Estonians are that much smaller. Like they're literally a fucking speck in space. Like the whole thing. But anyway, so they're allowed to return eventually to Estonia in the 70s. I didn't realise that there was actually Estonia had a government in exile going on in Sweden for all of these years as well. Like from 1945, when they had that very, very brief time of independence, they had their government was actually existing. They had ambassadors, separate Estonian ambassadors, separate from the Soviet ambassadors.
Can't imagine them having a lot to do though.
Well, that was it. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? But they were at the time, because it was considered to be an illegal annexation. Like, it was considered, like, Estonia in particular, and all the other Balkan states as well, like Latvia and Lithuania, they were all considered to be illegal annexation. So there was a lot of petitioning going on in the UN and stuff like that. A lot
of that was a deal originally done with Nazi Germany about who was going to get what. If they... in a non-aggression pact that Russia and Germany signed with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Molotov-Ribbentrop pact was what they signed off to say, yeah, we won't fuck with each other, and then never trust a Nazi. And
wise, very wise advice.
Never trust a Nazi. I might put that at the start, just as a good piece of advice for everybody.
But eventually, and this is where it kind of like. Comes around that eventually was the memorial itself became a bit of a symbol for the Soviets, and it was replaced with a more permanent, it was called the Bronze Soldier, which is probably one of the most hated and most controversial memorials outside of the southern USA. It was the Bronze Soldier of, I don't want to pronounce this wrong, it was Tornismay, which I believe is like a suburb of Tallinn. And but this Bronze Soldier was eventually moved in 2007, and so it was a move from its original location to another cemetery, which was like a Soviet cemetery, to which had like a ridiculous outrage from the Kremlin. They went up in arms and they were talking about, respecting history and the proud Russian population. And there were ridiculous riots on the street because they moved this statue as well. Like literally tens of thousands of people, like the Russian local population rising up to say, how dare you do this? And when the two girls at this stage they were in their 80s by that stage, and they were said, did you ever think about blowing up the Bronze Soldier? And said, yeah, we actually inquired about it, but it would have taken that much dynamite that would have shattered the windows from everywhere around. So they'd actually consulted an explosive expert when they returned in order to blow up the Bronze Soldier, which replaced it. Wow. So I just thought these two pretty kick-ass little chicks just went out there and basically took on the entire Soviet Empire, which at that time was a pretty full-on thing. And so making sure, doing it on May the 8th, just to really piss on their victory party as much.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to school the next day.
That's right.
And back to school the next day.
Handing out some pamphlets.
And they didn't even need to hear weird voices in their head to do it either. No. That's amazing.
No, that's it. They didn't need to rely on God. They just did it because, fuck it.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Maddie, what have you got for us in our final story for this podcast?
Well, I'm going to talk about suicide, so let's keep that.
Yay! Maybe we should have divvied up a few of us to do some funnier stories.
We could have done Dana Plato's death. Sorry.
Well, we'll see. We might get some humour out of this. You never know. I'm talking about England's Clifton Suspension Bridge. Okay, ooh. A beautiful bridge stands 101 metres above the River Avon.
I actually thought that was like a very posh English name for a second there.
Oh, right.
It sounds like a Monty Python name. Hello, my name's Clifton Suspension Bridge.
It's a card game I've invented. It spans 400 metres. And it's considered an engineering marvel. It's been open since 1864. The chances of survival for anyone taking the plunge are slim. Since records were kept of people jumping off, there were 206 suicides from the bridge between 1974 and 2007, until they put up a barrier for, nanny state, trying to make it more difficult for people to commit suicide.
PC Brigade out again, I see.
But I wanted to tell you about one spectacular case which happened on the 8th of May, 1885, when 22-year-old Sarah Ann Henley decided to end it all by throwing herself off the bridge.
Do we know what a problem was?
Yes, I believe, was the result of a lover's quarrel. A young man, a porter on the Great Western Railway, decided to break off their engagement and wrote a letter to the young woman rather than telling her face-to-face.
Send it by text.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
Sorry, bae, not going to happen.
So, was the problem that no one was around to tell her there were plenty other fish in the sea?
I think
that solves all kind of heartbreak problems, doesn't it?
A young person in a state of despair, so rushed quickly to end her life. So she gets the text and she runs straight away. Right, I'm over this. She maybe had a few to drink.
Yeah.
No
barriers,
Sarah,
so it's all clear.
That's right. But Sarah was wearing a wide crinoline skirt, popular at the time. And according to reports, there had been a big breeze blowing on the Friday, and the young woman's clothes were inflated, and her descent, and I'll read you the exact report, her descent was thereby considerably checked, and the wind also prevented her falling straight into the water, and she was carried off into the soft mud on the side of the river.
She popped
She married Poppins.
She Poppins it. Perfect.
Wow.
She just hovered, slowly fell down. Like, oh, that's awesome. She Poppins it for sure.
Parachute dress. Fantastic.
Yeah, so Thomas Stevens, resident inspector of the bridge, who obviously wasn't very good at his job, was watching visitors walking across in the breeze, and he saw Sarah climb over the railings onto the parapet, but before anyone could reach her, she threw herself off. She was blown by the wind, then turned a complete somersault, so she ended up falling feet first to the water below. The wind blew under her wide skirt, and her clothes acted like a parachute, poppinsing her slowly down to the mud.
I'm trying to imagine how thick that material would have been and how bilious.
Yeah.
I think the layers more
must
than
have
anything
been.
else. There's the multiple layers, so it does kind of silk it out.
Yeah, so it's not just it's not, and it's not going to collapse. I guess it's not going to invert like a cartoon.
Yeah, like a windy umbrella.
Like a windy umbrella. Thank you very much.
Did you mean billowing rather than bilious too?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It was a very.
I said it and I went, oh. So hopefully someone doesn't check.
So again, because she landed, the tide had been receding, so the mud was newly, it was thick and soft. So two men who had seen her fall rushed to her aid and dragged her out. So the local paper concluded the young woman marvellously escaped instant death and is, strange to say, still alive in the infirmary and may possibly recover. We believe that out of the 16 or 17 persons who have jumped off the bridge, only one exhibited any signs of life. Death in every case has been apparently instantaneous. Wow. So that's the start of the story. The second part of the story is that so not only when she recovered in hospital became like this media sensation, obviously the Poppins effect is a pretty arresting image at the time. So the fallen woman received over 150 marriage proposals from around the country.
Geez, they're good, aren't they?
Just based on the fact that she can fly, maybe?
Just make sure you're going to commit yourself. Don't break up with her.
That's right.
Well, no, maybe that was it. Maybe they were they all had their kind of breakup letters already written, just so they could see it happen in person.
Well, what my concern was, if she chose one of their proposals, is she thinking 149 of them are going to just go up to the bridge and jump off?
Yeah.
But
try and Dick Van Dyke it. That doesn't work as well.
Just jump off, strapped to a big drum and a trumpet.
Straight down the chimney.
With some chalk.
With some chalk. Just draw a picture of a river on a bit of on the footpath and jump into it.
That's it. Draws a hole in the wall and just dives through that one.
Dear. So, of course, being the 1880s in Victorian England, her father was offered a fortune to turn her into a popular entertainment to join a freak show.
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Well, join a freak show for jumping off a fucking bridge.
I know, and having a billowy dress.
Wouldn't they have to
People were
bring
so
the freak,
bored, weren't they?
bring the freak show to the bridge so that she could jump off
she
that
could do it every
particular
time.
bridge?
No,
Yeah,
I
like Evil
just think-
Knievel, just twice a day. Like a residence
3 times on Sunday.
I think the marvel is that she's alive. So you just walk in and just see a woman sitting there. You just go, oh my
Look,
God,
she's alive. Wow.
she
How did
didn't
that
die. That's
I mean,
definitely an alive woman sitting there.
It's no worse than looking through a peephole and seeing, oh, look, there's a woman just a head on a table. She's not sitting under the table with a head poking through a hole. She's just a head. Okay, so apparently the guy who she was due to marry tried to reconcile with her, but the doctor who was looking after her was like, no, you're not doing that. And then apparently she remarried at 40 and then went and found the dude that broke up with her and was like, hey, look at me. I'm not only am I famous and survived, I've got a better man than you.
Well, was he gay?
That would be a good reason to break up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably. But now we've had our fun time. Now we're going to take it down a dark route because
Oh, darker than attempted suicide.
No, it's not. Well, yes, yes, indeed. Okay, but so now we're going to hear about how most jumpers are men, but 2 of the jumpers were children. However, they didn't jump; they are thrown.
Oh.
Their names are Elsie and Ruby Brown, aged 3 and 12. Their father, Charles Brown, is bankrupt. His store is failing. He has 5 kids.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown
threw his kids off the bridge.
Yeah, it's no Mary Poppins. He has 5 kids, but he
Good grief.
only he only throws 2 off.
Maybe that's where Charles M. Schultz got it from, do you reckon?
Yeah, just how miserable can you be? So it is assumed that he has 5 kids, he throws the 2 girls off, and he's got 3 boys. However, both girls also survived.
Wow.
So only 4 people have ever survived jumping off the bridge. 2 of them are children. I haven't found any information about the 4th one in any detail. Just a guy who tried to jump off and it didn't work. But the children survived. At the father's trial, Ruby recalls being soaked wet by the rain and crying, being forced to walk up and back across the bridge, and then her dad lifted her up and pushed her over the side.
So how did they survive, though?
They just survived the fall. The girls are saved by a boat captain and 2 police officers. So again, someone's seen this happen. They just survived the fall into the water.
I wonder if the lack of weight made it.
Yeah. I mean, you hear stories
same
of
density
children falling out of windows.
and hitting the water.
They might have had a half Poppins-ing because of their weight, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a feather effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the girls are saved by the 2 police officers. The captain is James Hazel. There's photos taken of their sisters with the policeman. And again, because it's the 1800s Victorian England, that postcards are sold afterwards of not only of the police and the captain and the kids together, but also family photos of the father and the 5 children are sold as curios. As, look at this guy, he tried to kill 2 of his daughters and it didn't work. So he got sentenced to jail, obviously. But here is the final part. We're at the end of the story. Okay? So Sarah Ann Henley, the first woman that I spoke about, who Poppins'd it,
Yeah.
she died in 1948.
Okay.
When she died, she was wearing a locket, and inside the locket was a picture of Elsie and Ruby.
Oh.
Isn't that weird?
How?
Like, obvious. So she has survived this
So they're
fall.
soul sisters.
These 2 girls have survived this fall, and she's kept a locket with their picture in it for the rest of her life, and never told anyone that 2 was in it.
Oh, right. So they found it on her and no one knew she had it.
No one knew she had it. No, they
Right.
knew, obviously she wore it every day, but no one actually knew. They just assumed maybe it was the husband or children or whatever. But they opened up and it was the picture of those.
Whoever made that dress.
Whoever made the dress, yeah. It was actually Mary Poppins, because the book had come out by then based on her. She'd been trying to sue. So that's what happened. That's what happened May 8th, 1885.
Yeah. I think there's a rumour going around too that the man who fell and survived was actually Oscar Pistorius, and he landed on his blades and kind of sprung back up into the air.
Oh, I just thought maybe he started running like a lizard. You know those lizards that run across the water?
Oh, okay, yeah. Fair enough. I imagine wonder what that would have sounded like, actually, just Oscar Pistorius
skimming across the water like a lizard.
leaping off a bridge and surviving somehow.
What would that sound like?
I've got no idea.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know.
No, I wouldn't know.
Does anyone here know?
Well, look.
No, if only Wiggo was here from What a Pair of Trousers.
That's right. And someone would...
We've only got Sensible Ben.
Sensible Ben. That's what I'm going to call him.
Yeah, that's what you're called from now on. Sensible Ben.
All right.
Well, can I just add something?
Please.
When we were discussing the time frames, etc., I had discovered that actually on May 8th, 1886, that Coca-Cola was invented. And that was what I was thinking about having as a secondary piece. But when Matthew had said it was 1885, I found some discrepancies between 1885 and 1886, and it seemed like such a big story that I thought that was something that may have popped up.
Right.
And been your choice of story. But
Back in the days when cocaine was prescribed for fixing most ailments you could have.
Especially toothache.
Including children's coughs.
And see, that's the funny thing. Like I've just been flicking through the pages of the history of Coca-Cola, and there is zero talk of cocaine. So it seems like it's all been...
history's been whitewashed.
That's right. It's revisionist history on the historyofcoca-cola.co.uk page.
Right.
But, yeah, like that was... I thought that was an interesting little tidbit for the 8th of May also.
Yes. Well, I was just trying to decide. I had two facts spring up very quickly. I suddenly didn't realise which one I wanted to go with. Firstly, I'm not sure if it's an urban myth, but apparently Coca-Cola used to be green. And they decided to put food colour in it as a marketing tool to make it kind of different and interesting, and so people didn't think it was just some sort of weird lime drink.
Right.
So there's that. Also, Coca-Cola banned in the Third Reich. Also, I don't think they could get their hands on any. But even if they wanted to, it was banned. And so they invented... Does anyone know?
They invented Fanta, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So, yeah, Fanta... Next time you have a nice, refreshing Fanta, you're drinking...
While you're driving around in your Golf and drinking Fanta.
Right. Never trust a Fanta.
Yes. All right, well, that might be us done.
Okay.
For this one.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. So that's been the 8th of May through time. See you all next episode.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, well, now we're going to figure out when we're going to record next so that we can do some more date work.
Yeah, date work. Go do more date.
The 8th of May. The 8th of May.
Why did you dog out on the impersonation?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because I did not know.
Because he's Sensible Ben.
I'm Sensible Ben, that's right.
Just go, now I'm fucking falling through the air.
Dear idea, what the fuck is this? Better start running.
All right, I might... Well, I might just...
Reba, did you push me, you bitch? I'm going to get you for this.
Hey, why did you take my locket?
If you can do one now, I might actually tack a bit on the end of just like some wind blowing and then the sound of jumping off a bridge.
Can you make him say, I can't even fucking do this right?
Well, I don't have a girlfriend anymore. I might as well end it.
That is it. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to jump off this fucking bridge.
Hey, is that Oscar Pistorius? Oscar!
1, 2, 3.
No, wait, don't!
Ugh. Oh, shit. I can't even do this right.
He's still alive?
Just did like Eddie the Eagle ski jump. That's what happened.
All right, and he's off. Oh, he's making great speed.
Very fast.
Who's getting sucked off?